Houston men's basketball team is headed to the NCAA Championship. You saw him in the stands, and he'll join us at the top of the hour from San Antonio. Former Cougar, now Houston Mayor John Whitmire. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Ernie Manous. We also welcome you to the conversation. Give us a call or shoot us a text at 713-440-8870. You can also stream us live via YouTube by heading to HoustonPublicMedia.org.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, the stock market takes another hit as President Trump doubles down on tariffs. Economist and Dean of the Jones Graduate School of Business, Peter Rodriguez, joins us to answer your questions.
Plus, we'll take on the top headlines of the day and the White Lotus finale.
The fun starts right after a news update from NPR and News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is threatening another tariff hike on Wednesday if China does not pull back its retaliatory measures. On Truth Social, Trump also singled out Japan as one of the countries selling to Americans far more than they're buying from the U.S. Trump now says tariff negotiations with other countries will start immediately, a day after his Treasury Secretary said more than 50 countries had approached the administration. NPR's Scott Horsley with more.
10% tariffs on nearly everything the U.S. imports took effect over the weekend. Unless something changes, even higher import taxes on goods from dozens of countries are set to kick in on Wednesday. That's sparking fears of higher prices and slower economic growth. On his way back to Washington from a golfing weekend in Florida last night, President Trump told reporters, quote, "Sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something." Investors around the world are finding the president's trade war a bitter pill. Asian markets dropped sharply overnight. Oil prices briefly dipped below $60 a barrel. But retail gasoline prices in the U.S. continue to climb. They're up about 9 cents a gallon in the last week. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The administration's asking the Supreme Court to block a court order requiring the return of a Maryland man mistakenly sent to an El Salvador prison. White House is under court order to bring the man back by tonight. Here's NPR's Luke Garrett.
In 2019, an immigration judge barred Kilmaro Abrego Garcia from being sent back to El Salvador because he was being targeted with threats and violence. The Trump administration deported him there anyway and admitted it was a, quote, administrative error. On Sunday, a judge called the deportation, quote, wholly lawless, end quote. But Attorney General Pam Bondi said Abrego Garcia is a member of the MS-13 gang and deserved to be deported. When asked for evidence on Fox News Sunday, Bondi responded,
"So we have to rely on what ICE says. We have to rely on what Homeland Security says. They're our clients. And I firmly believe in the work they are doing."
A court order says Abrego Garcia must be returned by Monday night, but the Justice Department says it can't. Luke Garrett, NPR News, Washington.
Texas officials say a second child has died of measles. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. attended the funeral yesterday and identified the child as 8-year-old Daisy Hillbrand. NPR's Maria Godoy has more.
Secretary Kennedy traveled to Texas on Sunday. In a post on X, he said he went to console the family of the child who died. He said the CDC is deploying teams to Texas to help with the outbreak. And he called the measles vaccine, quote, the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles. And that is notable because in prior statements, he's called vaccines a personal choice. But in another post Sunday, Kennedy praised doctors' use of treatments that have no evidence to support them when it comes to measles.
NPR's Maria Godoy reporting Texas alone has 481 confirmed cases. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Fort Bend County Judge K.P. George is awaiting his next court appearance on money laundering charges. He was arrested on Friday, and prosecutors say the charges are unrelated to his arrest from late last year. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, News 88.7's Natalie Weber reports.
George is accused of money laundering between $30,000 and $150,000. According to court records, the charges are connected to wire fraud and tampering with a campaign finance report. George was indicted last September after investigators say he worked with a staffer to fake racist attacks against his campaign on social media. Prosecutors say the investigation into George led to the money laundering indictments, but they say these new charges are unrelated to George's misdemeanor case. In a statement posted to Facebook, George says he loaned personal money to his campaign, which he later repaid. He says that practice is legal and describes the new charges as a, quote, political witch hunt. From the Fort Bend County Bureau, I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
And the Houston Health Department is also confirming a new measles case from an unvaccinated traveler who walked through Hobby Airport while infected. That person came from Mexico and was at the airport on March 30th between 4 and 8 p.m. No additional measles cases have been confirmed within the city. And the UH Cougars defeated the Duke Blue Devils in the March Madness game on Saturday. Tonight, they are playing for a national title when they take on the University of Florida. UH basketball coach Kelvin Sampson says his team leans on its defense.
Most people look at that and say, well, we're not pretty. This ain't a beauty contest. If it's a beauty contest, we shouldn't have showed up.
The game gets underway tonight at 7:50 in San Antonio. And it's currently 55 degrees, sunny with a high near 66. Tonight, expect a low near 48 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy and helping clients find balance. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists for online therapy from anywhere at betterhelp.com/public.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello there, Houston.
Hello, Houston.
Good morning, Houston.
You know, in that little setup they say, coming to you live from the University of Houston. Today it's coming to you live from the center of the universe.
That's right.
Because go Cougs. We'll talk about all of that in just a moment. We want to welcome also our YouTube viewers who are watching us online. You can join us by going to houstonpublicmedia.org, and you can click the link right there. Last night, White Lotus finale. But Saturday night, there was something a little bigger that excited people.
Yes, and it's funny to me quickly that the White Lotus sort of featured Duke.
Yes.
and the guys from Duke got sort of hammered.
Yeah.
and then Duke got shut out.
We find out Zion got his MBA from University of Houston.
There you go. It's all about Houston.
But more importantly than all of that, we do know Cougs doing great, and well, their biggest fan is with us.
And he made that clear last Tuesday when he was here in our studio.
He is. Please welcome the mayor of this great city of ours, Houston. It is John Whitmire. Hello there, Mayor Whitmire.
Hi, Mayor.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you.
Well,
I'm excited as a U of H grad, a Cougar. I started my public service right there on campus, deciding to run for the legislature in 1972, but I have sat in the aisles of Del Mar Stadium watching Elvin Hayes and Don Chaney. I went to the Dome in '69, and we beat UCLA, who was number one in the nation. The Dome was shaking, so you can only imagine how pumped I am. But I'm so excited for the city. We need events such as this and occasions that bring us all together. It's a huge step for unity.
It was very exciting to watch the game at home on Saturday night. What did it feel like in the stadium?
Oh, man.
Well, obviously, I was surrounded by the family player, the player's family, the leadership of U of H, grassroots fans, graduate. I mean, it was exciting. Now, we had some low moments. It was frustrating. We'd get so close. And then there would be a spread, but folks, it's the national sports story, how we came back.
Mayor,
I can't say enough about Coach Sampson. We all need to learn that you never, never, never give up.
Well, Mayor, I have always said that if you don't believe in miracles, watch college sports. That's where they always seem to happen.
But, hey, this is the miracle of miracles. There's never been one like this in history.
I'll tell you, not to get too punny about it, but there was kind of a flag on the play, at least a Cooper flag, that's for sure. When you saw that happen, that foul called on him, have you looked back and replayed it? I know it's been a little controversial.
A bunch. Numerous times. And, I go to the games at Hofheinz, the Fertitta Stadium. First of all, I can remember when there wasn't a Hofheinz. They literally made HISD Stadium, Delmar Stadium, HISD for Walter, where I went to high school, but we'd sit in the aisles. So I've kept up with them this year. Roberts is not, he shoots about a 60% free throw success. Hey, you're nervous. You're nervous for the players. You're nervous for our community. And then how do you go home and try to go to sleep,
Yeah.
So are you putting
I'm excited. I got to work early this morning to get my work taken care of so we can get on the road and be over there and celebrate. And obviously we're already discussing in my office how we can properly celebrate their success. We're in touch with the chancellor. So, hey, it's a great day to be a Cougar, a great day to be a Houstonian. Let's enjoy this moment. There's a lot of turmoil in the world. Set it over on the sideline until we get this victory tonight.
That's right. So do you have any predictions for tonight's game, Mayor Whitmire?
A win.
Yeah, there we go.
1 point will do it, right?
A challenge. But I just can't tell you. I mean, to watch that replay, I'm going to be honest with you. Those things are not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But everything, never give up. And Coach Sampson, you know what is so fascinating? I watch him during the year. They could be up 30 points. Houston up 30 points, and he's the same coach. He's on top of their butt. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's nice to see it go their way, that is for sure. But it was...
And then hear about their training and preparation goes back to last June, running the mile. Somebody's texting me this morning. Every player on the team can do a mile in 5 minutes. Hell, I don't even know what it is. so unreal for me and Frank to run a mile in that. Right?
Mayor, you've been talking about the celebration. So win or lose, there's going to be a very happy Houston. We've done very well. We're celebrating either way, correct?
You are absolutely right. We are recognizing our success, but it's going to be the national championship. Let's be real positive about that.
Mayor, thank you very much.
We need moments like this in our life.
Savor them.
Absolutely.
Like I said, a lot of turmoil.
Absolutely.
Celebrating opportunity for Houston. Bring us together. Sports events, unlike almost anything else, really unites Houstonians. Our Astro World Series and the success of the Rockets. The Dynamo. Let's enjoy the moment.
Well, safe travels to San Antonio, and we'll see what happens tomorrow, but we might have to hear from you again tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm excited to come back on and talk to Hello Houston.
All right, don't party too hard tonight.
Sir?
Don't party too hard tonight.
I don't. I'm past those.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thanks for the... What was that?
I said, I've outgrown those celebrations that make you hurt the next day. This will be sheer joy.
Yeah, but you know what? You get to lead an entire city in a celebration, and we're thrilled for that. Thank you very much, Mayor, for joining us.
Y'all have a good day. Let's go Cougars.
Let's go Cougars.
Go Cougars.
Thank you. That is Mayor Whitmire, Mayor of the City of Houston, celebrating, as all of us are today, the triumphant win on Saturday night, which puts us in prime shape to take it all tonight. We want to hear what you think. What are you doing? How are you celebrating? What do you want? How did you celebrate Saturday night even? And I'm curious to hear from our listeners exactly what that moment felt like to them when you thought, we were so close.
Yep.
Oh, wait, we did it. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. We're going to be doing this throughout the next 2 hours, so please feel free to join us. But there are some other topics Except the topics are this topic. Celeste, take it away.
That's right. So clearly the biggest story coming out of San Antonio is all about Houston. That's
if you're
right.
not watching on YouTube, you didn't see Celeste don her UH hat.
I'm wearing my UH cap. I've been waiting for this moment. And it's everywhere. And a quick recap, the University of Houston Cougars won an instant classic against the Duke Blue Devils Saturday night at the Alamo Dome, coming from behind with just seconds left in the game. It was wild. The Duke Blue Devils saw their 14-point lead slowly evaporate over the game's final 8 minutes by the Cougars. The result, a 70-67 national semifinal stunner. That sends Houston to the national championship game tonight against Florida. Obviously, this is a big moment for Houston. It's everywhere. If the Cougars win tonight, this will be the school's first ever national championship in men's basketball. The last time Houston was in the national title game was 1984. In the final year of the Phi Slamma Jama era, those squads came close, but they were never able to win at all. Will the Cougs win tonight? And where is everybody watching the game? We want to hear from you.
Of course they're going to win.
Give us a call, 713-440-8870. And now we have Houston Public Media's Mark Norris on the line. Mark has been covering the Final Four and will be at tonight's championship game.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
How are you guys doing? Good morning from San Antonio. How are y'all?
We're doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It is a little cool, but sunny outside, and the first fans are starting to walk around on the streets. I'm seeing folks in blue and orange and some red as well. Our hotel is right next to the Alamo Dome, so prime spot to see how the fans get excited.
So where were you? Where were you after the big win Saturday night?
So I was in the Alamo Dome covering it, and for the final 4 minutes, I moved over to the side where the University of Houston band was, the student section, and the fans, and watching them go from, oh my goodness, we might fall a little bit short, to, oh my goodness, the most amazing comeback in history was an amazing thing to see. The entire arena started getting behind Houston, because you have to remember you had Auburn and Florida people there who they kind of started cheering for Houston at the end. So
Mark, I want to know when those final, right before those final 4 minutes, when you were moving over there, what did you think you were moving into? A moment of, you were there to support the sadness that was about to hit?
Honestly, myself and most of the press, around the 12-minute mark in the second half, we all started writing our, Houston loses, Duke advances story. And nice. I moved over there to be in position to get, consoling players, the fans, giving them one last round of applause, and then it totally flipped in the final few minutes.
What did the energy feel like in the arena?
It was interesting. The mayor kind of alluded to it as well. The Houston fans were still being supportive, but you could tell they kind of sensed that, this might be getting away from us, even late into the game. But then in the final 2 minutes, they just brought all this energy, and it, again, having the other fans there supporting Houston as well, there was just a wall of noise those final few seconds.
So cool, so much fun. So what are folks acting like today? What's the feeling on the street?
What's the vibe in San Antonio, Mark?
So the vibe right now, really, it started last night. So UH had a pep rally around 6 o'clock yesterday. Jim Nance was there speaking. Check out our socials if you want to see what that was. And then both fan bases moved to the Riverwalk, and the Houston band came. They were on one of the river barges along with the Cougar Spirit Squad. There are a lot of Florida people here, so they were out and about, doing the tourist thing, eating at the restaurants, going to the bars. So a lot of, I will say, very respectful, very playful energy, but a lot of energy. And the Florida fans I talk to have a lot of respect for what this Houston team has done. So both fan bases supporting their team, but very respectfully and in a fun way.
Hey, Mark, I know there was a lot of controversy over the call against Cooper Flagg, the foul that kind of led to eventually the victory. Or has that just been sort of swept under, like, well, you know what, that happens in all sports and forget about it? Or has there been any talk about that?
There hasn't been any talk about it here. I think that's one of the things where, at least for the Houston and the Florida fan bases, it just was one thing that happened in the 15 things that had to happen for Houston to win. So at least here, no one's viewing it as like some type of, that single event is the reason they lost.
Right. So just go forward. You won. So, well, up next is Florida. How do you, have you heard any word on how it might go? What's your thought?
So It was interesting. I chatted with a bunch of the Florida fans last night just because they were everywhere on the Riverwalk. And universally, all of them were very impressed with what Houston done. A lot of them, they told me they were planning to, kind of leave at halftime, but then Houston was keeping it close. They wound up staying to the end, and that really impressed them. For a lot of them, it was the first time they had seen Houston play this year. So the Florida people, they feel good, but they are not overconfident. And I think they know that they're going to have their hands full tonight.
Mark, we love having your eyes and ears out there telling us what's going on and how it feels. And I'm hoping you're going to have a great story to tell us tomorrow, too.
I hope so, too. It has been amazing to see how the UH community has really embraced this team. And I hope that comes through on the broadcast, because the energy on, in the streets here and in the arena is really amazing.
Wow. Well, we'll hear more from you later, hopefully in the next hour, and certainly tomorrow.
That's right.
Absolutely. I'll be back with you guys sometime in the noon hour, so we'll have more to chat about.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. You know what? It is fun to have someone actually there going through it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that was Mark Norris with Houston Public Media. And you can check out all of the University of Houston March Madness coverage on our website at houstonpublicmedia.org, or head to Instagram and follow us at hellohouston.show. We have Mark Norris on the ground there in San Antonio, and he is going to be checking in with us
excited.
later. Yeah. Very much.
And as a reporter, so he's really paying attention to what's going on. So his insight is perfect. So,
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Tell us how you're feeling, what you're seeing, what your feelings are, and what your prediction is for tonight. Though I think I know what it is.
Well, speaking of predictions, Ernie, you may have heard the 2026 version of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is going to feature an additional day. It always started on Tuesday. This year, next year, it's going to start on Monday.
Right after the barbecue.
Right after, I guess they'll have Sunday to clean up and fix things, and then they're going to go right into it. So it's kind of exciting because the 2026 rodeo is now going to run from March 2nd to 22nd, the rodeo barbecue, the World Champion barbecue, and then the kickoff for the rodeo, which is all scheduled February 26th, 27th, and 28th. So here's what I want the prediction on. The last day, March 22nd, is a Sunday. It's going to feature only an evening, not a rodeo, only an evening musical performance inside NRG. So the question is, who's it going to be?
It's funny. I was at the theater on Friday night sitting next to Joey Guerra, who is the music critic for the Houston Chronicle, and we were having that same conversation.
So what did Joey say?
He didn't make many predictions. He was kind of George Strait-ish, but I feel like they've done George Strait, made a big event out of it. This has got to be something uber special.
Well, I think George and Parker are going to be on a tour of some sort.
Are they really?
So that might be them. I mean...
Maybe. What do you guys think?
I've said in the past, for me, I'm not a huge country music listener. I only really listen to it during, March 2nd through March 22nd when the rodeo is going on. And I feel like I fall into I'm going to go back to the bands whenever I was in high school and, college. And so something that I love about the rodeo and the lineup is I always see who's cool and who's happening.
Well, so, like the mayor said, it's one of those events that brings our city together.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no bull in the fight, right?
Yeah, and I was going to predict Reba, but we already had Reba, so she could come back.
Taylor Swift.
What about Beyonce?
What about Dolly Parton?
Beyonce has country. It's a country star now.
Beyonce.
That would be interesting.
That would be an awesome.
What if they did kind of like what Bun B does and they bring back an all-star for one night?
Oh, that would be good. Like, take Houston, take the rodeo. Yeah, that would be fun.
We should be rodeo concert consultants.
Oh, I'm sure. They're on the phone calling us right now. You could be on the phone calling us and consulting with us right now as well. 713-440-8870. But you may not be able to dial because today is also National Beer Day. So if you've been celebrating, it may make the dialing a little hard. It's also national, and I have been celebrating this for a very long time, so I'm happy we're finally on the day. It is National No Housework Day.
That's the story of your life, isn't
I know.
it?
I love that day. And of course, we will be talking today, and we invite you to join it. White Lotus.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about White Lotus.
There's so much to
We're not
chat
there
about.
yet, but there's a lot to unpack. That is for sure.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, uncertainty over the global economy looms as the trade war escalates. American economist Peter Rodriguez and Dean of the Jones Graduate School of Business at Rice University joins the conversation. We're also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello 88.7.
These law firms are agreeing to these deals when they know that there's no legal basis for any threatened executive order. And by capitulating, they're aiding, this existential threat against the profession, the independence of the judiciary.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear that tonight at 7 o'clock.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. We'll get more reaction to the growing trade war between the U.S. and the rest of the world. Plus, Jennifer Haig's novel Rabbit Moon, inspired by her time living in Shanghai.
It was really disorienting. It was hard to keep landmarks, in fact, because you could see the city remodeling before your eyes.
Next time on Here and Now.
It's coming up today. You can hear that at 1 o'clock.
Support comes from Signify Business Cash by Wells Fargo. With this business credit card, cardholders can earn rewards on business purchases with no caps or categories to track. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/signify. Terms apply. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. At the heart of the Texas Medical Center, Baylor physicians and scientists continue to shape healthcare for Houston and beyond through education, research, and innovation. Support comes from Discovery Green's Green Mountain Energy Earth Day. Guests can experience immersive activities and an interactive musical performance from Squonk, Saturday, April 19th. More info at discoverygreen.com. Support comes from Moody Center for the Arts, celebrating Earth Month with several artist-led programs inspired by nature and environmental justice. Learn more about Moody's events and their current exhibition Breathe at moody.rice.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. I'm Celeste, here with Frank and Ernie.
Hello, Houston.
And we have a lot to discuss. Earlier this year, Peter Rodriguez, Dean of the Jones Graduate School of Business and the Verani Undergraduate School of Business at Rice University, was appointed to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Houston Branch Board of Directors. As a member of the board, Rodriguez provides input on our region's economy to the Dallas Fed, which works with other regional Federal Reserve banks to guide our nation's economic policies. To tell us more about his new role with the Houston Bank of the Dallas Fed and give us his thoughts on the dramatic market swings we've seen in the last few weeks, we welcome Peter Rodriguez himself. Peter, good morning and welcome to Hello Houston.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Glad you're here. We have a lot of questions.
That's right.
I'll do my best. Thanks. Keep them coming.
Just today has been a very interesting morning so far. We are seeing dramatic swings in the market. Right off the bat, what do you think is going on?
Well, this is all about uncertainty. And if there's one thing that's just toxic to financial markets and really gums up any business decision, it's I don't know what's going to happen next. Therefore, I hold my cards, I don't play. And everyone in the market is trying to figure out where this trade war is going to go and how long it's going to last. And that's what you saw today.
There was a rumor that Trump was going to pause the tariffs, and that turned out to be a rumor.
It seems like it turned out to be a rumor, but it also seems like the market may have half believed that there was some room because I think what the market is trying to figure out is how much of this is a negotiation, how much of it is not, how much of it is just we're releveling the playing field and get used to the new world order. If that's the case, markets are going to adjust and say that's a big change and we're going to prep for a big change and prices will go down. If they think, and what seems to be the case with prior actions by the Trump administration, everything is open to some negotiation, then there was this question, and it's not clear where that's going. I think you'll start to see Fortune 100 executives, people like Jamie Dimon, come out and say, hey, wait a minute, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe these Vietnam tariffs are too high, maybe the same for South Korea or EU. And so the market just has a lot of uncertainty to digest, and that's why the markets are down.
When you talk about uncertainty, my concern in all of this is whether or not Trump decides to roll back things or put them forward. Global markets now can't trust what is being said from the White House. There's no way to build business plans off of something that is so erratic. Is that a true fear, and does that truly impact the way the global economy reacts?
It does. And since you started a trade war, what you have is all these reactions and then reactions to the reactions, right? So the Chinese counter, and then we counter their counter. And then if you can't hold on to that, then you just have to wait. You can't afford to decide. Imagine you're Nike. Do you pull your plants back to the United States or some friendlier country today? Or do you wait a month, a quarter, long enough to say, now I know, now I feel good, I'll make some big decisions?
Well, and I'm hearing it would take 10 years to build a new plant, and then it's going to be full of robots.
I think that's the real concern, too. What are you going to do? How long does it take? If you decided today, I'm going to start a new plant, well, you got to get your architects, you got to get the land, property, and equipment. Even if you move all of yours, do all your suppliers come or not? Do you have the storage?
And do you really employ people?
And do you really employ people? And I think that's the challenge for global manufacturing, is that around the world, those are good jobs. We understand why everybody wants them. I want more. Everybody does. But manufacturing jobs just continue to go down because we have more automation, and automation is the other competitor in the market that we're trying to deal with.
We want to remind everyone that we welcome you to the conversation. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. We are speaking with American economist Peter Rodriguez.
So I'm hearing, as I'm sure everyone is, that, oh, well, we were being ripped off. Everybody else had a sweet deal. We were being taken advantage of. And my reaction to that is, well, okay, they had a sweet deal. We had sort of gotten used to it. We had a great market going at 45,000. We had interest rates at 6%, which is, from when I was growing up, pretty good.
Pretty good.
And unemployment at 2%. So even if they had a sweet deal, we were enjoying a sweet deal as well, right?
Well, the economy looks really strong by a lot of measures. So if you asked for a point in time today, you'd say unemployment around 4%, which is the lowest you can really get it without stoking inflation. I think that you saw the market doing really, really well. We come across, two back-to-back, 20% plus years in the markets. That's fantastic for your 401k and everything else. It's difficult to make these kind of changes. And the U.S. is the world's leading economy. We trade a lot. Even if we don't export as many manufactured goods as we want, we export about $3 trillion a year. We're really big. And we also have a net surplus in services. So what we really specialize in are financial services, insurance, consulting services, education, everything else. That's what our real strength is. So there was a good balance in the world economy from the standpoint of strength.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We were balanced, even though we may have been getting ripped off or being taken advantage of. We're the strongest economy out there. Of course, we're going to get taken. It's like when you have the rich parents and everybody else wants a handout.
And I do think that there's reason to want more jobs of the kind the Trump administration wants. And I do think there's a good reason to want certainly lower budget deficits and the like. But this approach seems to be chaotic, at least at the moment, and I think that's what has everybody spooked.
But Peter, question for you. Frank mentioned ripped off. Were we really getting ripped off? Is
it's
that
hard
the
to
correct term?
Good point.
There's all sorts of tactics and advantages out there that countries use, and I have no doubt that there were subsidies happening that wouldn't be necessarily a level playing field. But that's really hard to get. Everybody has a different set of rules, and in the world trading market, we sort of learn to deal with them the best way we can. What we did have better control over was trade in North America, where we had sort of integrated the three economies into one big economy, and that makes good sense. And a good relationship with the EU, where they have high wages and high labor costs and other things that make us feel like the playing field is more level. The real issue seemed to be with more or less China, and now we've got the whole world mixed up.
Well, and doesn't it seem a little hypocritical to say, well, we were being taken advantage of when billionaires are taking advantage of our tax system every year?
Well, there is this question about what does it really do for manufacturing jobs in the U.S. and what is being taken advantage of and what is not. You have to unwind so many things. And I would start with not necessarily the billionaire piece, but all the sort of subsidies we have for industries that we favor and want to protect. are also thrown into the mix like they are everywhere else. We like to have steel, which is important for strategic reasons and national defense reasons, but there are a lot of subsidies for agriculture and other things in the United States because we like those industries and
I came from
keep
farmers.
them strong. And, there's good reason to have those, but once you start adding in everybody's policy for protecting their favorite industries, yes, you could see the playing field seeming unlevel, but it's really hard to measure, and there's no good way to measure that.
Should we be focusing on manufacturing jobs as this nation today when it comes to the cost of things, and that we know in other countries, at least traditionally, they can produce these things much less expensively? We could be using our workforce to move forward into the worlds of technology and AI and all of what's coming next. Are we putting out a great plan for 1950 and not a great plan for today?
Well, that's a great question, and it's really hard to know where the puck is moving. But we know we want to move where the puck is going. And I would say that, manufacturing, there's nothing particularly special about that job itself. What we want are high-quality, high-paying jobs. That typically takes a lot of skill. That could be in services or other things that people do. And there are clearly some jobs that, if you brought them back to the United States, wouldn't really lead to the type of job quality we want. So a lot of things we'll talk about, like some of the very low-end manufacturing that you see happening in Vietnam and in China, I don't think that's actually going to produce a wage in the United States that's very useful. And you can think about Apple and the iPhone. You can assemble them here, but it's much better to design them here and get paid for the higher-end production, that the higher-end technological production it needs to go inside the phone than to just assemble the phone.
And speaking of manufacturing, President Trump says that, we, the United States, we're going to hurt for the next 2 years. But doesn't repatriation of manufacturing take decades, take years? So
it does.
Where is the 2-year timeline that he keeps mentioning come from?
I don't know where that is. Maybe he's thinking about the market getting optimistic after the change take place, but there's no way that you could repatriate that much. And then you have to think about another issue, which is if you have full employment, which we more or less do today, where do the new workers come from? And it means you have to churn something in the market. Something has to give so that something else can be added. And that's a hard question to answer. That's what the market sort of sorts out over time. But that in itself is a source of uncertainty. And so you're right. These are more 5 to 10 year changes than they are 2-year changes.
Well, it's almost like and I don't want to play the blame game, but small town America was with all the little drugstores and the toy stores on Main Street, that was replaced by Walmarts. Right? Mm-hmm. So Walmart came in and built their big buildings. Well, then that was kind of replaced by Amazon because you could just call or get online and all of a sudden it's here. And so to your point that, we've got to be more forward thinking than trying to go back into the days of manufacturing everything here. Do you think NAFTA can be saved if we clean this up fast enough?
Sure, and I think we have 2 ready partners. The good thing about the Canadian and Mexican markets are they're close, so there's a natural advantage with shipping costs. We've been working at this for 30 years, so all the supply chains are integrated here. All the infrastructure has been put in place to make us one big manufacturing and trade unit so that we can compete as North America with China, with the EU, with the rest of the world. That can be saved, and I think that's a much more sound way to think about going forward with good jobs and the right types of jobs. The real issue is how do you get the young people of today skilled in a way that's going to enable them to have good jobs? And there are a lot of ways to do that. Manufacturing alone won't be enough, and it is a difficult market to chase.
Just to remind everyone here, we're talking with Peter Rodriguez, who's the Jones Graduate School of Business, from the Jones Graduate School of Business, I should say, and also is appointed to Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Houston Branch Board of Directors. We're taking your calls about the economy and what's happening out there. 713-440-8870, 713-440-8870. You've got questions about the economy. I can't think of a better person to answer them for you, so give us a call.
That's right. No, I have, moving a little bit more towards right here at home. President Trump, has been pushing for Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to lower interest rates. Is this the right time to do so? And is lowering interest rates as easy as President Trump is making it seem?
The thing you have to do on interest rates is to think about the whole state of the economy. And there are 2 big factors the Fed has to consider by its mandate. One of them is inflation. So you want stable prices at around 2% by the measures we use, and you want full employment. Today, we more or less have what we would call high employment levels at around 4%, and we're still not back down to that 2% level of inflation that had been our baseline for really 25 years and was really upset by COVID. It's taken us 2.5 years plus to get down to where we are. So you don't have evidence that you can lower rates today. Jobs are still plentiful, so that's the good news. So there's just no case to lower rates yet. We'll have to wait to see evidence of things we don't want. Would be one, like a softening labor market or a loss of jobs. Then you might have a case to lower rates. But you really just don't have the prices where you need them. If inflation today were 1.8% per year or 1.9%, sure, you could think about lowering rates at the early signs of a weakening job market. But you can't do that. Inflation's still too high.
Do you have any fear of deflation, the opposite? And if so, what would that mean?
Well, you can get that, and the Fed also worries about deflation. In fact, everything we did after the global financial crisis in 08 and 09 was to try to fight that, because you saw prices even temporarily go negative, and that can be difficult because when prices are falling, nobody does anything. You just wait for them to fall further, and that leads to this downward spiral of your economy. I don't think that's a risk until we would get pretty severe market correction or a downturn that's really worrisome. So I hope we don't get there. But at the moment, we're not. I would think that the Fed, most people were predicting a couple of rate cuts this year. We were already feeling like we'd gotten most of the work done on getting inflation back down. Markets bets today look more like maybe one cut this year, maybe none. It depends. And tariffs typically raise prices, not lower them. And so this sort of a tariff war creates a problem.
A question about tariffs, though. The president's doing them with executive actions. Aren't they something Congress is supposed to impose?
Yes, they can. If the president claims that these are, exigent circumstances because of extraordinary economic risks, he can act, and Congress can check that. They've not chosen to date. I think that if we don't see a return to sort of clear skies ahead, or if you see some pain being exacted on the economy, my guess is some congresspeople will react. But to date, they haven't, and they've given President Trump, I think, what you'd call a honeymoon period to do almost anything with respect to tariffs, and this is a big move. I think they were on board when he was elected, and they are on board today, as far as I can tell.
And even honeymoons get boring.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe,
tired of
or at
honeymoon.
least
if President Trump called you, Peter, and said, "Okay, what do you think I should do?" What would you tell him?
Well, I think the first one is that, high tariffs aren't really good for anyone in the global trading order. You can have some tariffs, but the way we've gone about it is really chaotic. And so first and foremost, I would say you've got to leave some good outs for the allies. It can't be one versus the world. And I think this tariff position we have is a little bit too one versus the world.
And what's with the tariffs on islands that are full of penguins?
Well, I think that was just kind of the haste that they took in putting together this formula. The good news is we don't trade much with those islands, so they don't matter much anyway. But it's sort of they're moving quickly.
There is that.
It's just so funny.
But I would say that the issue wouldn't be the EU. We didn't include services in our trade deficit with them, and we should have included services. They buy a lot of services from us. Those are good jobs. That counts.
Define services.
So that would be not a trade in a physical good, but let's say you buy software services from someone producing in the U.S., or let's say your bank is here in downtown Houston. Then that means that you're getting services, and we're basically supporting jobs in the U.S. because you're importing those things. Well, those are high-quality jobs, and we should have included that in the measure of the tariff. So I think we've over-tariffed some allies, and I would say I would rather not do that. I think you can focus on the bigger, thornier issues with countries like China.
So that would be the quick fix.
Yeah.
What about the long term? How do we get the markets back?
Well, the markets need to be convinced that this is going to work and that they can be profitable. And what has them worried right now is they can't move their plants back to the U.S. and have the same level of profits. And so if they can't have the same level of profits, then it's right that their stock should be trading at a lower level and a lower multiple. And so until they feel like they can be profitable, there's no fix.
Let me take you back and kind of, you're in the White House. Mm-hmm. What is the philosophy behind what we're seeing happen here? What were they hoping to accomplish that we may not understand as we watch
Please tell us there's somebody behind the curtain.
Sausage being made. We're not seeing the sausage.
I don't have any greater insight than you do, but I would say a lot of the philosophy has to be this point of view that the only reason we have trade deficits, especially in manufactured goods, is because others are cheating. In other words, that we don't lose unless there's cheating somewhere else. And I think that that's probably overstated. It's true that there are countries that trade with us and they have low labor costs. But that's our advantage to our consumers. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have lower consumer prices because production is cheaper and bring it back to the United States where production costs are higher at the same time.
They talk about trade inequities. And if I understand, that seems to be something that doesn't really make sense. If a small country buys less from us because they can't either afford our products or there's not as many of them, and we buy more from them because they produce things we want, what's the point in trying to make that equal? That's the way the system works, correct?
That's correct. My other piece of advice to the White House would be there's no sense in trying to have balanced trade with each and every country. You might want to have more balanced trade overall, but if we buy bananas from Costa Rica because that's where they grow bananas really well and really cheaply, then we ought to do that. There's no way they're going to be able to buy as much from us. We're a much larger, much richer country.
Right.
So that bilateral balance is not a productive or economically sound balance to look for. And that example anyway doesn't reflect any cheating of any kind. What you really want to look for is to say, let's make sure we aren't hollowing out industries too quickly or losing too many jobs, and what we can do about them, we can take a lot of measures to. Trade is only one, and it wouldn't be my instrument anyway, but that's only one measure.
Switching gears totally. Oh, sorry, I cut off Celeste. Let me ask this, then I'll toss it over to you. People are worried about their retirements.
Sure.
People are worried about where their investments are. Should people just sit and wait, or should we be being proactive?
That's a hard question to answer. It's really idiosyncratic, of course. When you see the market go down as much as it has in the last week and a day like today, it's got to make you nervous. If you really depend on that cash coming out, you're going to want to be in safer investments, and that's a rational thing to do. I'd be a little bit gentle about that because there is enough uncertainty that you just don't know, and so moving in haste or moving into something that has no high likelihood of appreciating is a little bit costly. But I think this is exactly the type of market circumstance that leads people to be a little more cautious. And if you're in a retirement state or on a fixed income, or if you are really worried and really need that dollar inflow per month to be steady, hopefully you were already in something that wasn't too risky. But if not, this is going to move you at the margin into that. And that's rational. It just, it shouldn't be too large.
So, okay, Peter, I really want to hear about your new role with the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, Houston branch, board of directors, because we all drive down Allen Parkway and we see the big red brick building. And I'm always so curious. Educate me. What exactly happens in there?
Yeah.
What do we need to know about the Federal Reserve Houston branch?
Yeah, there's a lot of money in there, actually. All the cash that you see at ATMs or in banks in this southern part of the state really flows through there. And the reason why there's such high security and why it's well above the bayou is to protect that. They literally have, just like you see in the Die Hard movies or whatever, just reams and reams of cash in there.
Do we really want to be telling people this?
It's no secret to the Bruce Willises and others of the world. But that's part of what they do, is that type of banking function. But mostly what they want to do is take a pulse on the economy so they can feed that information back into the Fed. And the role of the board is to really communicate from the energy sector, the healthcare sector, NASA, education sector, everywhere in this city and region. How's it going? What are you experiencing? Where are businesses? And therefore, how do we adapt our policy in the smartest way to fulfill our mandate? And that's really what's taking place. And they're a convener of great conversations about all of that.
So how is it going? What's your prediction in our region right now? How are we doing with all of this going on around us?
It's been great so far. This is a real significant moment because some things are happening that would normally worry us. So, for example, you saw WTI is down, and there's downward pressure on energy prices. We're a huge trader here in Houston and in this region. And in fact, if you look in the United States, really the largest export we have is crude oil and natural gas and energy-derived products, whether they're plastics or other chemicals that are used in fertilizers. So we're a huge, huge part of global trade here. And when you see that market shrink a little bit, well, we know what that means. It sort of means that there's going to be less money flowing in and around the economy if that persists. But it's a volatile market. It could turn way back up tomorrow. And that's one of the challenges of the energy industry. But we're okay, but that's a bit of a worry. Then you also have the Port of Houston, which is an extraordinarily important port, second, I think, largest in terms of trade activity in the United States in a year. It's really hard. I don't think anybody's going to turn away crude or natural gas. That's sort of industrial oxygen, and that doesn't happen quickly. But we do see that as being a risk, and we see the other services built around that at some risk. So we're at a little bit of a a delicate point. But I think we're coming from a strong place, and we're certainly not weak at all. We've been really strong. A lot of in-migration to the city and the region because we produce a lot of jobs. Housing costs have been more manageable here than in other major markets.
So what's the takeaway? Folks listening today, give me a 15-second end to us.
We're coming from a strong place, and we've got great, strong roots. The good news from today would be that this policy seems to be absolutely panicking a lot of markets. It's understandable, but the good news about it, policy, is that it's just a policy. It's not a structural foundation. It can be reversed. And
I hope the president calls you.
Well, we can leave him my number. I don't think he'll be calling me. But I think, the good news is that there's room to change this. This isn't like saying we've lost something that can't be gotten back. It can be gotten back, or it can be moved back through a negotiated process anytime, and that's positive news for us.
Peter, thank you very much.
My
Peter
pleasure.
Rodriguez is the Dean of the Graduate and Undergraduate Business School at Rice University, and he's on the board of directors of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas Houston branch, and he joins us here on Hello Houston. Coming up next, we talk with News 88.7's Natalie Weber about the latest on Fort Bend County Judge KP George arrest last week. Stay with us and also call us 713-440-8870. Give us your thoughts on any of the topics we've been talking about today.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
You have the power to make a difference right now. Support the news and information that keeps you connected to Houston and the world.
Your gift today strengthens our independent reporting and thoughtful storytelling, and you don't have to wait for the spring fundraiser to take action.
Why wait? Step up now and protect the independent news you count on every day.
Make your donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting Missy Mazzoli's contemporary opera Breaking the Waves, making its Houston debut at the Wortham Center from April 19th through May 4th. Tickets are available at hgo.org. Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
Support comes from St. Luke's Health and St. Luke's Foundation, supporting clinical excellence, compassionate care, and a healthier future for all. More at supportstlukes.org.
Support comes from the Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival. Over 200 artists, authors, live music, food, and children's activities at the Woodlands Waterway, April 11th through 13th. More at thewoodlandsartscouncil.org, a 20-year journey of making art matter.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome back to Hello Houston.
Hey, this is Frank Billingsley along with Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman. And it's Monday, and what an eventful Monday we have going on, especially Monday night.
That's right.
It is. And we've been talking about a lot of different subjects here today, and so we want to know what you think. So our phone number is 713-440-8870. It's 713-440-8870. Get what we did with that number? Yeah.
Like it.
Anyway, so we also have been talking about UH, as Frank mentioned. Sally's on the phone. She's calling us from Cyprus. Sally, what's on your mind today?
The game.
The game. So you have a unique relationship to what's going on, don't you?
Yes, we do. My husband and I are both Duke alumni. So anyway, I sat on the edge of my chair through the whole game and was hopeful, but not
overconfident.
Totally. Right, exactly. So at the end of the game, I consoled myself that at least we have another team that we can root for.
So you win either way, at least on Saturday night. Now, what are you thinking about tonight?
Well, Houston, of course.
Natalie, thank you. How are you going to celebrate, actually? Sally, I'm sorry.
Smile.
You're just going to smile?
Smiling Sally.
Smiling Sally.
Yeah.
Sally, thank you very much for calling, and we
Sure.
look forward to watching the game, at least in the idea of being with you, even though we won't be together. We'll all be in this together one way or another.
That's so funny.
If you have a reaction, a thought on the game, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
All right. On Friday, Fort Bend County Judge K.P. George was arrested and charged with 2 counts of money laundering. George is accused of laundering equal to or more than $30,000, but less than $150,000. So that's the range for this charge. According to court records, the money laundering charges are connected to alleged wire fraud and tampering with a campaign finance report. So a bit to unpack here. To tell us more, we welcome News 88.7 Fort Bend County reporter Natalie Weber. She has been covering the story since the arrest last Friday. Natalie, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So exactly what is the accusation here? What's KP George said to have done, allegedly?
Right, so I think you laid it out pretty well in the introduction. We don't have a lot of information yet. We know that he's accused of money laundering between $30,000 and $150,000. We know these charges are related to alleged wire fraud and tampering with a campaign finance report, but that's all we have at this moment.
Well, what has his response been to the arrest? Has he made any statements?
Yes. So on Friday night, George released a statement, and he says that he loaned personal money to his campaign and later repaid that loan. He says, that's a completely lawful practice. There's nothing illegal about that. And he called the investigation a, quote, witch hunt.
So what have the prosecutors said about that? Have they made any statements?
They have said that they, quote, remain committed to the integrity our public deserves and the ethics to which all prosecutors are sworn to. And they say that their investigation is ongoing.
If KP George says that he loaned money to his campaign and then just took the money back from his campaign, that seems like something to be easily proven with records and ledger sheets, if a little old-fashioned of me. But isn't that
seems cut and dry, doesn't it?
Yeah. Right. So, I am in the process of putting in some records requests to try and get more information about this case. I know the judge has his first appearance in May, so I'm sure, as this case develops, we'll find out more. But I am in the process of trying to get some public records that can hopefully shine a light on the situation.
If he is found guilty of what they're accusing him of, what happens next?
So he could face up to 10 years in prison. Money laundering is a third-degree felony charge. The sentence usually is 2 to 10 years in prison.
He's had kind of a rough public history of late, hasn't he?
He has been facing some other legal troubles. Would you like me to talk about that?
That's what I was setting you up for.
Yes. So last September, George was indicted on a misdemeanor charge of misrepresentation of identity. He's accused of working with former staffer Turul Patel to fake racist attacks against his own campaign on social media. So that investigation is ongoing as well.
So it hasn't been a great period for KP George right now or the people of Fort Bend. So thank you very much, Natalie, for keeping us informed of all of this. And I assume you'll stay on the case and we'll get more as it develops.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was News 88.7's Fort Bend County reporter, Natalie Weber. Coming up next in the second hour of Hello Houston, we'll be speaking with leadership at the Depelchin Children's Center about Child Abuse Awareness Month. Plus, we'll talk about our city's skateboarding scene, and guess what?
What?
More on
Lotus.
UH Cougs.
Oh,
Can't
White
get
Lotus.
enough.
All
Can't
right.
get
and
enough.
for
Go
Frank, we'll
Cougs.
do some White Lotus. Plus, your calls, 713-440-8870. This is News 88.7.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media, TV8. Discover delightful treasures in Denver as Antiques Roadshow continues the new season from the Botanic Gardens and Chatfield Farms in Colorado. Tonight at 7 on TV8 or stream on the PBS app.
Really nice day, lots of sun. We'll get up to 58. Actually, it is 58, and this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Welcome back to Hello Houston. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. In the second hour of Hello Houston, we'll take a look at the Depelchin's Children's Center. The local organization has been serving children and families in the Houston area since its founding in 1892, as April is recognized as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Did you know Houston has a robust skateboarding scene that continues to cultivate some of the most talented skateboarders in the nation? Well, if you didn't, you do now. And joining us today is legendary skateboarder and entrepreneur Dan MacFarlane. He's going to join us live in studio.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Don't forget, you can stream us live on YouTube or find us at Instagram at hellohouston.show. Stick around because we have a fabulous show coming up right after the news update from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. U.S. stocks still deep in the red with tariffs weighing heavily on markets around the globe. At last check, we see the Dow is down 600 points or 1.5%. S&P's off nearly 1%. NASDAQ is down roughly 0.5%. More on tariffs and market reaction. But first, the Trump administration is now appealing to the Supreme Court as it faces a court-ordered midnight deadline to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is the Maryland man who was mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador, even though his family says he has legal protected status in the U.S. NPR's Jasmine Garz with the latest.
Abrego Garcia has been living in Maryland for more than a decade with a form of legal protection known as withholding of removal. He was arrested by immigration officials last month and sent to a notorious Salvadoran detention center. His lawyers contend he has no criminal record, and the Trump administration admitted it had made what it called, quote, an administrative error. Last week, federal judge Paula Zinnes ordered that he be brought back. The administration requested a stay, which a Fourth Circuit Court panel denied earlier this morning. The Trump administration has now asked the Supreme Court to block the order, calling it absurd. Jasmine Garst, NPR News, New York.
In the latest trade standoff between the world's two biggest economies, President Trump says the U.S. is prepared to impose even higher tariffs on China Wednesday if Beijing does not drop its retaliatory measures. It's all rattling Trump allies, even on Wall Street, who've been sounding the alarm of a recession on the horizon. More from NPR's Maria Aspen.
Even if things don't get that bad, this current market sell-off could have real consequences and real pain for most consumers. About 60% of U.S. households own stocks, and a lot of people have their retirement accounts and other long-term savings invested in the market. And also, let's not forget, these new tariffs are widely expected to raise prices on almost everything that Americans import.
Maria Aspen reporting. Officials say the death toll from severe weather in Tennessee has reached at least 10. WPLN's Paige Flager with the latest.
Severe weather has plagued the state for multiple days, bringing tornadoes, 75-mile-per-hour winds, and flooding. At least 5 people died in McNairy County, where an EF3 tornado with 160-mile-per-hour winds caused damage to more than 300 structures, according to the county's emergency management agency. The ground was already saturated with rain by Friday, and flooding remains the biggest concern. Multiple waterways reached moderate flood stage or higher. 2 Tennessee counties along the Kentucky border issued voluntary evacuations in areas that are prone to flooding. Waterways are anticipated to continue to rise through the early part of the week. For NPR News, I'm Paige Flager in Nashville.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. An important Texas industry is applauding President Donald Trump's tariffs. News 88.7's Tom Perumian says shrimpers are hoping the tariffs will save them from a decades-long flood of cheap imports.
The Southern Shrimp Alliance is praising the tariffs slapped on imported shrimp. New tariffs range from 10% on Ecuador and Argentina to 36% on shrimp from Thailand and 46% on shrimp from Vietnam. The alliance says American shrimp harvesters have been a dying industry for at least a generation. Right now, 94% of all shrimp consumed in the U.S. is from foreign suppliers. The alliance's John Williams says they are grateful for the Trump administration's actions, which will preserve American jobs, food security, and their commitment to ethical production. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
And 4 people who were fired shortly after reporting Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton to the FBI a few years ago have received a multi-million-dollar payment. $6 million combined was awarded to the whistleblowers last Friday. The court says this is due to the Attorney General violating the Texas Whistleblowers Act, which protects any whistleblowers from termination. The district court found that the 4 Paxton aides were fired in retaliation for reporting allegations that Paxton was taking bribes from a real estate developer. Paxton says that his office plans to appeal the ruling, calling it, quote, ridiculous and not based on the facts of the law. The University of Houston Cougars basketball team will take on the University of Florida's Gators tonight. UH alumna Natasha Saad says this is what fans have been waiting for.
It puts Houston on the map. It gives us a lot of recognition. If we win, I'm pretty sure there's a parade, big celebration. It'll get all the community together. Everyone will take UH more seriously. We've been getting called the underdog.
The game gets underway at 7:50 in San Antonio. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Indiana University, establishing the IU Launch Accelerator for Biosciences to drive healthcare discoveries and train the next generation of innovators. More at go.iu.edu/IULab.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your hosts for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
It's the noon lunchtime hour.
Hello, Houston.
We are here with you on the radio, but also, as we love to share with you, on YouTube. You can watch us on the YouTubes, as I like to call them.
The YouTubes.
You can watch us there by simply going to HoustonPublicMedia.org and clicking the link, or on YouTube, just look for the Houston Public Media channel, and we're there streaming live. You can watch us there. Other things you might like to want to watch is White Lotus.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
We are. That's coming up in a little bit. So if you're a White Lotus fan, get ready. We started today, really. Celeste, you were saying how much you enjoyed it out there.
I did. You know, today just felt amazing. I woke up and the weather was incredible.
Yep, April crisp.
It was so crisp. The Cougars are in the national championship game tonight.
Made a Monday feel good, didn't it?
It made a Monday feel great.
I know. Well,
and it's amazing.
Big high pressure system, which is actually down in Mexico, is giving us a westerly wind. It was breezy with a north wind. Getting more of a west wind now. So consequently, it's going to be another cool one tonight. Temperatures this afternoon only in the 60s with lows overnight in the 40s, upper 40s, low 50s. And then tomorrow, pretty much a repeat. I think we may get into the 70s and 80 degrees by Wednesday, and then some 80s Thursday, Friday. But the lows are still going to be in the 50s and the low 60s. So if you start out the day with that kind of nice, cool, crisp temperature, it ends up being a good day. And I have no rain in the forecast for the next 7 days.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And
unless you're a plant. But
we've got the art car parade on Saturday.
Oh, that's good. It's fine.
So, and
it'll be a little warm, but it'll be clear.
I'm sure there's going to be a welcome home to UH and the Cougs, so they'll probably have nice weather for that.
No, it's
parade.
a good week to have outdoor activities for sure.
Well, it is absolutely beautiful outside.
Somebody say Cougs?
I did.
That's
I alluded to them.
the
Celeste, take it away with
Cougs,
this
right.
hour's headlines.
So all day long, it's going to keep going. The biggest story, obviously, in Houston and nationally, the University of Houston Cougars had a comeback for the ages Saturday night. At the Alamo Dome, the Duke Blue Devils saw their 14-point lead slowly evaporate over the game's final 8 minutes by the Cougars. The results, a 70-67 national semifinal stunner. That sends Houston to the national championship game tonight against Florida. Go Cougs. So the Cougars are now 35-4 and can win the school's first ever national championship in men's basketball tonight. The last time Houston was in the national title game was 1984, which was the final year of the Phi Slamma Jama era. I feel like Phi Slamma Jama era. Those squads,
fun to say, isn't it?
Those squads came close but never won it all. And speaking of Phi Slamma Jama, that basketball fraternity that specialized in slam dunks, our executive producer Jim Kovacic had a chance to catch up with a member of the 1984 team who played with Akeem Olajuwon in the Cougs' last national championship game 41 years ago.
Stacy Belcher played for the University of Houston basketball team from 1983 to 1987. The 6'6" forward also played on the last official Phi Slamma Jama team. That's the made-up basketball fraternity that specialized in slam dunks and changed basketball in Houston forever.
Yeah, it was a real exciting time back then. The city was at the buzz. Everybody was cheering for us. You had a whole lot of attention over winning games. It was a whole lot of great energy. It brings back a lot of great memories for myself.
Belcher played with Akeem Olajuwon in the Cougs' last national championship game in 1984. Sadly, it ended with a loss.
I always think about the loss. We wanted to win it. We played Georgetown that year. And that's what Patrick Ewing and company, they wound up beating us. But that's the main thing that stick out to me was the loss. You know, we wanted to win and bring that championship home to the city. That had been a great experience for myself and our teammates and the city as a whole.
Flash forward to 2025 with the Cougs' comeback win against Duke on Saturday. Does Belcher feel any closure?
I feel closure when they bring it home tonight, which I think they're going to do. I filled out a bracket. I had U of H beating Florida in the championship game in my bracket. So I feel good about tonight.
And the big question, will the members of Phi Slamma Jama get together to celebrate after a U of H win?
We would love to. We'd love to. As you know, we just lost Alvin Franklin earlier this year. So he's one of the founding point guards back in the day that led, U of H a Final Four in the final game versus NC State.
And how will former teammate Akeem Olajuwon feel?
I think Akeem would love it. He's always there when we play in the Final Four. I've been seeing him the past couple of years. I know he's real excited about this.
That's Phi Slamma Jama member and former U of H basketball player Stacey Belcher. This is Jim Kovacic for Hello Houston.
Nice. We hope he finds his closure tonight. That's our fingers across. We all do.
Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, Jim.
And right now, we want to go and visit with our Houston Public Media, Mark Norris, who is covering all of this live over in San Antonio. Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
Good afternoon from San Antonio. How are you guys?
We're doing great, but I'm figuring you're in a more exciting place right now.
Yeah, the folks are starting to be walking around. The official UH tailgate festivities get going in less than an hour. They're going to have an outdoor tailgate on the Riverwalk next to the team hotel, and then at 3:30 they're going to move the party inside the team hotel, and that's just been a hub of activity the last few days. There were so many people there on Saturday they actually had to stop letting people inside for the team send-off. So Cougar Nation is out in full force here.
Are you seeing a lot of Cougar Red?
Yes. For those who are wondering, did the Houston folks travel? They have traveled, and I expect to see more people here because it's just 3 hours away.
Well, Mark, I have a quick question for you. How does the Florida roster look like? What can we expect tonight against Florida?
So Florida is dangerous because they have so many options, and they are so tall. I was staying next to them in the hallway where they go to the locker rooms, and they had multiple players who had to duck down to get underneath the door frame. So Houston, who has a tenacious and feisty defense, their biggest challenge is going to be how do they handle the length of Florida on the when it comes to them shooting and trying to get points. So it'll be a big challenge for the Cougars.
Have they played Florida before this season, or is this a new team for them? Do you know?
The last time Houston and Florida played was the 1970s.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is a new team. Florida had a chance to grow up, I guess.
Yeah, I know. They have never met in the NCAA tournament. And the last time these two teams played was the early 70s.
Wow.
Well, I would feel better if it was the same players on Florida from the 1970s. Then I'd feel much more confident about tonight. Mark, I had heard that the bigger challenge was the game against Duke and that Florida is going to be easier for us. Any truth to that?
Ooh, I don't know if I'd say that. Duke certainly has, they are the bluest of the blue bloods. And, they had the National Player of the Year. But Florida is the odds maker favorite. They're favored by 1.5. So, that's very close. But if you're talking to experts, they still give Florida a slight edge. But Houston has kind of a never say die mentality that I think makes it really hard to count them out. So I expect another nail biter. I do not think this is going to be a blowout.
Nice. Well, it's going to be fun, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And somebody was saying 7:50 seems like an odd time, but don't forget, folks on the West Coast are 2 hours behind us.
They want to watch the
folks
game,
on the
too.
East Coast an hour ahead, so it's hard to find the best time to put the game on. But 7:50 our time is when this tip-off occurs, right?
Yes, and they actually moved tip-off off this year for the first time. They used to always tip off at 8:20 Central. But then you had games when I covered the Final Four 2 years ago in Houston, that was a blowout win by UConn. And that game still didn't end until almost like 10:50 at night. They're trying to make sure that everyone can stay up and be able to watch the game and also have plenty of time to party afterwards.
Amazing.
Perfect.
Well, that was Mark Norris with Houston Public Media, and you can check out all of the University of Houston March Madness coverage on our website at HoustonPublicMedia.org or head to Instagram and follow us at HelloHouston.show.
I look forward to seeing more reporting of lots of red and lots of victory.
It's an exciting time in our city.
We want to know what you think. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. We hope Mark stays safe and has a great time watching us win tonight. Now, in another big issue here in Houston, it's biking. In Houston's Midtown, a group of cyclists got together Sunday morning, and held a symbolic funeral. Not for a person, but for a bike lane. They called it the Funeral for the Austin Street Bike Lane, mourning the removal of the protective barriers earlier this week, separating the two bike paths along Austin Street. As heard last week on Hello Houston, the city of Houston's removal of the barriers, sometimes called armadillos, is part of a larger drainage improvement project in the area. City officials also cited concerns from residents and first responders about reducing access for emergency vehicles, blocked trash collection, and limited parking. So, a funeral for a bike lane. What do you think? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I think it's great.
I love symbolic marches.
I do too. I think they were effective, and it was in that we're talking about it, and it's an issue that's an extremely important issue to our city, and it's one about safety. And so I think that the more awareness we can bring to making sure that our city has accessibility for bikers and walkers, and we have parks, and obviously we want emergency vehicles and first responders to be able to get to where they need. But again, I think it's fantastic that people are standing up for what they believe in.
Yeah, we want to know what you think.
Was there any alternative given? Like, we're going to close Austin for these 3 or 4 reasons, but we're going to try to build a bike lane over here?
I don't believe there has been any alternative, and that's part of the problem.
That's too bad.
It wasn't. That's why I think a lot of the biking community feels it's an attack on the lanes, because if you say it's for drainage, well, then what is your alternative? And they're saying, nah, take them out. And they'd already been paid for. That's the other part of the other thorn in this whole story is, well, what was the planning there? You guys just worked on those streets and put in all this drainage and stuff. So I don't know.
There's a lot of streets. Austin Street and Caroline and San Jacinto and Fan. Why Austin?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure they've done all kinds of different studies around this. But I will say Joe Catrufo mentioned this whenever he was in last week about how it's a lot easier to maintain and keeps up with already existing infrastructure than completely tearing it out. And I think that's one of the other issues. And Rodney Ellis was very, public about his position and commented as well that his district around that had paid for the bike lane on Austin Street, paid $2 million to have that put in there.
Right.
And there was no heads up.
Well, let us know what you think. That's for sure. So, and I'm sure they will. 713-440-8870. And now we're going to move on to...
What could it possibly be,
What
Frank?
could it
You're all
possibly
excited.
be?
Your hands are
What
clutched.
did you think? White Lotus. And there's a note here that says no spoilers, ? That doesn't mean I can't give you a spoiler.
Well, behave.
I'll try to behave, but come on. If you didn't take the chance to see it last night, then that's sort of on you because it was, I thought, delicious.
It was great.
I started looking. Well, first of all, what did you think? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. If you watched White Lotus last night, we want to talk to you. If you've got thoughts, opinions, reactions, give us a call right now. Frank is just dying to get into it with you.
Episode 7 had 4.8 million viewers. We don't know what they got last night, but I can guarantee you they got that, if not 5 million.
So I went to the Twitters. So I'm keeping this up for you, Celeste.
The X's.
And people were saying, which surprised me because this was not my reaction at all after watching it. Oh, that was a nothing ending. No surprise. We could have predicted all of this.
No, that's not true. I couldn't predict any of it.
I thought it was pretty predictable.
I knew the dad was the dad. I knew that. That was very predictable.
Yeah, we pegged that one weeks ago.
With the blender.
Okay, but did you think that one of the characters would come back to life, or would he just go ahead and die?
When that whole storyline started progressing, yes. I thought, the fact that he was sinking and he was came up and he thought he had seen God and
no spoilers.
Yeah.
Talk about this with no spoilers.
Right. There's no way.
But it's been pointed out that he vomited on his own reflection in the pool. It was kind of metaphorical for the way he was feeling about himself. Yeah.
I have two problems with that storyline. First of all, what resort has you living in trees that are poisonous?
Well,
that seems a bit much, wouldn't they? They
lot
showed
of
him
resorts in
fumigating
Central America,
everything.
Thailand and Asia.
You would have poisonous fruit right there to pull from.
If it's natural to your vegetation and your surroundings.
Dig it up if you're a resort. I'm not saying the whole country clear them out, but you're in the resort with people coming from all over the world who don't know what's good and what's not, what you can
Ernie
eat.
expects OSHA to show up in Thailand.
If we're going to get really technical here, I think the point is that you had to eat copious amounts of it to be actually killed from something like a seed.
That's my other problem with it. It's like poisonous doesn't mean deadly always. It
Well,
means
and your
you
body will
get sick.
Your body will
sick,
usually try to get
throw it
rid
up.
of it first,
Yeah.
which that did happen.
But oh my God, without saying anything and giving anything away, I'm like sliding all over the studio right now.
Well, let me say
I just sat there like they're not going. Don't they? If they do this. And then they didn't.
And they didn't.
But I was angry.
It's very close. The Ratliff family.
About the Ratliff
about what was going on in that storyline.
Well, I thought the three girlfriends, and Carrie Coons, is that her name?
Yep.
I thought
Carrie
her
Coons.
speech about friendship was the steal of the night. I thought it was marvelous.
Yes.
And probably the best monologue of the whole season.
But the best line of the entire night has to be, I'm a people pleaser in a family of narcissists. I loved that. And it summed up so many things I think often.
Well, I thought it was interesting. At the end, 2 boats sail away. One of those boats have people that came in rich and are leaving poor. The other has people that came in poor and are leaving rich.
Yeah.
And I thought that juxtaposition of the different families was brilliant.
Absolutely. Now, I have a question for you guys. Y'all both said earlier when we were talking about this that Belinda's son had Zion had gotten his MBA at UH.
He says U of H.
But is that University of Houston or is that University of Hawaii?
Well, Hawaii usually goes by UH.
Okay.
As well as while we go by U of H. And if you Google it, it says Zion went to U of H, not UH.
But I also Googled it, and it said he went to Duke. So it had no, if you look at what Google is putting up, I wouldn't trust it.
Okay, I wouldn't trust it. It doesn't really matter. But I think he was coming for, it seemed like he had not seen his mom in a long time because she was like so excited, my baby's coming, my baby's coming. And if he was in Hawaii and she was in Hawaii, they would probably see each other fairly often.
Oh, I would love to think that he got his MBA here.
I would, because it was a
the
whole
way he
huge
negotiated,
U of H weekend for us.
The way he negotiated, I would say he got it here.
Absolutely.
I thought, and I hope this isn't a spoiler, I liked that Belinda evolved into Tanya at the end.
In fact, didn't she use the same language?
Yes, I think so.
When she
I want
told,
to go back and
Porn
look.
Guy,
And I
some
was
stuff
like,
has come up, things have changed, I have to leave, I can't do the spa with you.
Well,
That's
so
exactly
much for
what
not doing
that's
the
exactly
spoiler,
what
but
Tanya
anyway.
said, right?
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because does that then give Belinda an opportunity to understand what Tanya had done to her in a different light? Instead of feeling victimized, she understood.
Because she suddenly became rich.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, she did do that
will
too.
change people.
I thought that was a really interesting little coda by doing it that way.
I've always said money changes people and love changes people, and there was I think a lot of that in both of the families. Even at the end, the Ratliff family, I think Tim has come to his reckoning of family is what is important, and I'm going to face this accusation head on, and I'm going to get through it, and we're going to get through it as a family. And I thought that was kind of nice, but I would like to know what happens to them.
Well, all I know is there will be a season 4.
Where's it going to be? Quick
Well,
guesses.
we don't know, but they did say in the after show little conversation with Mike White, the creator and writer of the show, that he's kind of tired of waves crashing on rocks.
Okay.
But there are more White Lotuses.
I heard Norway, but there are fjords there with waves crashing on
Well,
rocks.
you know, I've got to say, this has been
Switzerland?
such a cultural phenomenon. I mean, it really has taken, since 2020, the first one,
Yeah,
to
during
now.
COVID.
I mean, we're just all for it. It makes me a little sad it's over. Like, I want to know more about these characters. Like you said, when they go home, what happens?
Give us a call. Your thoughts, 713-440-8870. Where do you want the next White Lotus to be? And I've got a second question for you. After seeing 3 seasons, would you stay at a White Lotus hotel?
Even if they comp your room. And she's the one that, well, I better not say.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Jesse Booher, Senior Vice President and CEO of Depelchin Center. And we are also taking your calls on any of today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Support comes from Signify Business Cash by Wells Fargo. With this business credit card, cardholders can earn rewards on business purchases with no caps or categories to track. Learn more at wellsfargo.com/signify. Terms apply. Support comes from GiveMeTheVIN.com. Purchasing vehicles online with the VIN or license plate and photos, or by bringing the vehicle to Houston area offices. Details at GiveMeTheVIN.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from UNT, offering an online MBA with specializations in organizational behavior, HR management, and more. Classes start every 8 weeks. Details at online.unt.edu/MBA.
Support comes from Novotny & Company, offering commercial and residential property tax protests for 38 years. The deadline to file a protest is May 21st in Harris County. Info and online filing at novotnycompany.com. Support comes from Downtown Houston Plus, with new businesses like Tenfold Coffee Company, Meow Wolf, Barbacana, Punchline Comedy Club, and Bubble Boba. Details at downtownhouston.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at certapro.com.
You rely on Houston Public Media for clarity in a noisy world. Now it's your chance to make sure it's always there when it matters most.
Our spring fundraiser is days away, but don't wait. Give right now to help ensure essential news and powerful stories are ready when you need them.
Take the lead. Protect the journalism you depend on and help start the fundraiser with momentum.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, welcome back. Hello, Houston. I'm Frank Billingsley here with Celeste Diaz-Sherman and Ernie Manous.
Covering a lot of interesting topics today on the show. On YouTube, there's been a lot of reaction to our discussion with Dr. Rodriguez, and we'd love to hear more on your thoughts about his analysis of the tariffs and actually the good position that we are in.
Seemed to be.
This continues
I
to
felt
move
better.
forward.
As someone who has a Medicare card, I felt a lot better.
Well, that was one topic we hit. On the other topic we've done a lot with over our first week and today, again, is bike lanes, and we've got a phone call. Michael is calling us here at 713-440-8870. Michael, you live off Austin Street. What are your thoughts? Michael, are you there with us? Okay, we'll get back to Michael in a bit, but right now Celeste has our next guest.
That's right. So turning to a little bit more of a serious topic, last year there were nearly 54,000 confirmed victims of child abuse and neglect in Texas. And one of the goals on Hello Houston is to always bring awareness to our community. So we wanted to highlight a very special organization leading the way in supporting vulnerable youth and children and child welfare in the Houston area. And April is also recognized as the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. The Depelchin Children's Center was selected by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services as the lead agency for community-based care in the Harris County region, a program that supports foster youth in our area. And to tell us more about the program and some of the new things that are happening there at Depelchin, we welcome Jessie Booher, the Senior Vice President and CEO of Depelchin Children's Center. Jessie, welcome and thank you for being here.
Hi, Jessie.
Hello. Lovely to be
hello.
here. Just a quick correction, COO.
COO.
I don't want to get in trouble with the CEO.
Right. Excuse me. COO. So first, Jessie, let's just start with, for those that might not know what the Depelchin Center, Children's Center does, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Depelchin has been in the community since 1892, and we have always had a focus on families and safety for children. Today, we run a huge suite of programs designed to serve families wherever they are along their journey. So a little over half of our programs are focused on actually preventing child maltreatment, child abuse and neglect. And the other half of our programs are focused on helping families heal if and when that abuse or neglect occurs. So we have foster care programs, we have residential programs, but we also offer a lot of parenting programs, skill building for parents. We have programs that focus on fathers. We offer free counseling and mental health services for families that are experiencing trauma. We do school-based counseling. We try to do a little bit of everything. Like I said, we want to meet families where they are.
And where do the families come from?
All over the place.
I'm sure, but so an example of a few places.
Yeah, so we'll get referrals from other community providers. We'll get referrals from Child Protective Services. We'll get referrals from schools. Really anybody in the community. Sometimes families will sort of self-select into our program. They'll recognize that they have a need, and they'll find our services and come to us.
Is there a cost? I mean, it's free. So your
all
services,
of our programs are free.
That's marvelous. Where do you get your funding?
It's a combination, mostly state funding, but we have a very, very strong relationship with a variety of local philanthropic organizations that have been very generous to us.
I've heard about Depelchin for as long as I've been here.
Yeah. Well, it's been around as long as you've been here.
I know. Well, maybe longer.
maybe. But state and federal grants, too.
Nice.
I'm curious what we're seeing, and I hate to put it this way, trend-wise, in what's going on in abuse. And have we made headway? Are people more aware and behave better? Is there just more reporting of it? What's going on in that world?
It's a little bit of all of those things. I do think that I've been in this space for right around 20 years. There has been a lot more awareness of abuse. There's been a lot more awareness of the trauma that results from abuse. There's been a lot more awareness of the social determinants that are actually driving abuse. And at least what I have seen, and keeping in line with our theme of Child Abuse Prevention Month, there's been a lot more emphasis on trying to prevent abuse before it gets to a place where the state actually has to intervene.
Are we being productive, though?
I think we are.
Yeah.
I do think that we are making headway on this. Now, it's a really, really complicated, tricky issue to actually get in there and address, particularly if you're trying to intervene before something happens. as in many things, we're more adept at understanding interventions than we are prevention. But again, over the last 15 years or so, we've seen a lot of expansion and growth and impact on the prevention front.
I think when we think about child abuse, we come to the obvious of sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. What about bullying? Which is from outside the family. And a lot of times the family doesn't even know it's happening.
Yeah, and this is a question we actually get quite frequently. So our kind of parameters that we operate in is what the state defines as abuse or neglect. And at this time, bullying is not captured within any of those categories.
But yet suicides happen because of bullying.
Yep, and there is an emotional abuse component to some of the things that are investigated, but it so rarely rises to the level of state intervention that it probably doesn't get the level of attention as some of the others.
Are you able to recommend if it's brought to your attention?
Oh, and I'll be in our prevention programming, it's something that we absolutely would address.
Yeah, that's a tough
So
one.
the Depelchin Children's Center was selected, like I was mentioning earlier, by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. So now you all are the lead. So talk to us about that and what that means being community-based care in the Harris County region. That sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is simultaneously exciting and terrifying all at the same time. So basically, and this just happened. So we had applied to be this lead agency for a model that the state has been implementing for about the last 15 years called community-based care, and it's being implemented in other regions. And essentially what this means is that the state is turning over responsibility and oversight of foster care to local nonprofits in geographic areas. So instead of Child Protective Services overseeing foster care, a local nonprofit will do it. The state released an application. We applied, and as you mentioned, we were very recently selected to do that, not only for Harris County, but for the 12 counties around Harris as well. So we'll spend probably the next 10 to 12 months readying ourselves and working with the community and readying the community. And then over the course of 2026 and into 2027, all of the foster care services and programming that are currently overseen by Child Protective Services will transition under Depelchin.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I want to go back a little bit to root causes of all the issues that we're talking about here. And help me if I'm being way too either stereotypic or limited in my understanding
You
of
would
it.
never frame it that way, Ernie.
Some may. I'm wondering if a lot of it was cultural misunderstanding, that parents thought in days gone by, maybe more of you're firmer with your child. Things are done that were acceptable that by today's standard are no longer acceptable, and that we are doing, I would think, a better job as a culture in helping people understand that these violent tendencies, things that children are humans too. They're not. Are we seeing evolution in that realm? Are you following what I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there have been major evolutions in sort of the way that we approach our children with discipline and things like that. One of the things, so I started my career as a CPS investigator in Dallas County. And one of the things even 15, 20 years ago that we talked about are that there are cultural differences in the ways people parent. And those cultural differences are not inherently abusive or neglectful, that you have to be very, very thoughtful and conscientious about the way you work with families so that you're not getting into cultural judgments. But there are very clear markers of abuse or neglect that really even transcend differences in ways generations or various cultures parent.
So in some cases, abuse is abuse is abuse.
Abuse is abuse is abuse.
Yeah.
Even if you have a different approach to physical discipline or things like that.
Yeah.
As we see budgets being cut in schools, for the work you folks do, is it making it harder because maybe things aren't being seen and recognized as curriculum disciplines change in the amount of time maybe teachers have to socially interact with kids as opposed to teaching?
Yes, and the interesting piece of this is that one of the things that we see as it relates to budget cuts with schools is counseling and counselors. Counselors at schools are often pulled in multiple different directions as their responsibilities expand. And one of the programs that we offer is school-based counseling. So we will partner with ISDs to send counselors, trained counselors into schools to sort of augment that programming and help students that are dealing with issues.
So going back to originally the foster care system and the undertaking of essentially being the lead agency versus CPS, what is y'all's strategy to combat, I mean, I just have to say it, the foster system, because we hear just so many really terrifying and horrible stories about children that get lost in the system. And so how will Depelchin basically combat some of those stigmas for these kids?
It's a really great question, and it's one that we've been thinking about, planning about, worrying about. I think, not to be too hokey, but I think the primary way that we do that is by strengthening partnerships and collaborations within the community. There's no, even as the lead agency, there's no one organization that's going to be able to solve even the problems that you highlight, much less preventing child abuse, helping families heal. There's no one agency that can do that. But Houston and the areas around Houston, it's such a unique area in that we have the organizations to really tackle this issue, provided that we are all working together and moving in the same direction. And one of the things that we saw during our preparations to apply and the readiness work that we're getting ready to start again right now is that not all of us were moving in the same direction. There wasn't that kind of unified vision of what we wanted foster care or child welfare to be. And so our hope is that we can act as the lead agency, but in a partnership of equals where we are all rowing in that same direction so that we can address some of those major issues that you're talking about, because we can't do it alone.
And what do you do about the legal aspect? Like when a child needs a lawyer to maybe be
represented
against their parents even,
sure.
But can't afford that lawyer. Because I've been to fundraisers where they raise money specifically for that. So is that still an issue? And if so, what are we doing about it?
Yeah, not only it is an issue, but every child that comes into the foster care system is assigned an attorney. Now, those attorneys work very hard. They have large caseloads. They do amazing work. And I think to the point of trying to get everybody rowing in the same direction, we know that one of our responsibilities as this lead agency is going to be engaging with the legal community, engaging with judges, engaging with ad litems and other various attorneys to make sure that there's strong legal representation for youth and families as they navigate their way through the system.
Is it working?
Well, we've just kind of started our work, but I do think there are some really interesting studies. I'd be happy to send them out that show that when families have high quality representation, often multidisciplinary representation, so legal teams that also have social workers attached to them, that you get dramatically better outcomes for kids and families.
I apologize if this has already been addressed, but I'm curious the definition of child abuse today. And I think also societal child abuse, malnutrition, lack of supervision, things like that. Does that fall into the definition now?
It does. All of those things do. And so there's, off the top of my head, I'll get the number wrong, but there's 8 or 9 categories of abuse or neglect that the state looks at when they are conducting investigations. So one that you just mentioned would be called physical neglect, and that's where basic needs of the child are not being met. Kids are not being fed, not shelter issues, the kind of basic necessities. That there's not very many of those that actually rise to the level where a child needs to enter foster care. The 2 reasons that mainly cause children to enter foster care are physical abuse, which y'all mentioned earlier, or this kind of catch-all category that's referred to as neglectful supervision. And basically, neglectful supervision can kind of be broken down into 3 subcategories: domestic violence, serious, severe mental health issues, or serious substance abuse issues. And those are the primary drivers of what's bringing children and families to the attention of the child welfare system.
So I know clearly this is a heavy subject, and turning it to a little bit more of moving forward and the amazing things that you all are doing. Tell us about the new Depelchin Children's Center. Is it a new building?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a new donation station.
It's a new donation station.
So in partnership with the Junior League, the building is actually named Junior League of Houston Volunteer Services Building.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Very exciting. It was designed to address kind of 2 main challenges that we have operationally. One is related to parental training and foster parent training, having the space to actually bring people on site to train them in the skills that they need to be better parents. And then the second was going back to the generosity of Houston, the high volume of donations that we get. We had outgrown our space, both on the training side and on the donation side, and we needed a new building with which to do that. And we have been partnered with the Junior League in some form or fashion for over 100 years.
Wow.
And so as part of their centennial celebration, they offered an opportunity for their very close partners to apply for funding And we applied, and we're actually the recipients of a $2 million gift from the Junior League.
Nice.
And so we use that money to start a capital campaign, and the building will be open. I believe I've got the date. Yep, July 10th.
July 10th.
So it is coming. It's up, and
Oh,
looks
wow.
great.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a Friday. That's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on all the successes there.
Thank you.
and thank you and the whole organization for all the work you're doing for the children.
A
in our
wonderful
area.
group of people.
It is amazing.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Jesse Booher is Senior Vice President and COO of Depelchin Children's Center. Jesse, thank you so much again. Coming up on Hello Houston, Houston Skateboards Dan MacFarlane keys us in on Houston's skateboarding scene, so stay with us.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Last year, first-time home buyers made up just a quarter of all buyers, the smallest share in over 30 years.
We've moved before, but this is it's different when you're moving and you're saying, this is our home. We accomplished this.
I'm Kimberly Adams, one woman who was able to make the leap. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace. It's coming up tonight at 6:30.
Support comes from Gen Pro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support comes from the Dan L. Duncan Comprehensive Cancer Center at Baylor St. Luke's Medical Center, offering comprehensive cancer care that is compassionate, personalized, and driven by clinical research. More at stlukeshealth.org/cancer.
Support comes from Houston Grand Opera, presenting Missy Mazzoli's contemporary opera Breaking the Waves, making its Houston debut at the Wortham Center from April 19th through May 4th. Tickets are available at hgo.org. Support comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting jazz pianist and singer Diana Krall, returning in concert Sunday, April 27th to Smart Financial Center. Tickets at smartfinancialcenter.net.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, Houston. Welcome back. I'm Frank Billingsley here with Ernie Manous and Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Woo-hoo! We're going to talk about skateboarding in just a moment. Before, we had Michael that called us on the phone who lives off Austin Street. He left us this message. Bike lanes on Austin Street needed to go. They disrupted trash pickup and emergency services. So that was his comment. So feel free to give us a call if you want to talk about any of our subjects today. 713-440-8870. You can say it with me. All right. During the 90s and early 2000s, skateboarding permeated mainstream culture. City of Houston, I love the skateboard parks that we have. We're certainly no stranger to it. Today, the city has 6 official skate parks, all operated by the Houston Parks and Recreation Department. And with us now is Dan MacFarlane, pro skateboarder, instructor, owner of Houston Skateboards. If you are watching us on our YouTube channel, you can see this beautiful skateboard that he brought with us. It says, it basically says Houston. We needed to say, hello, Houston, Dan.
Yeah. Hey, we can collaborate on that. Make that happen.
Welcome to the show, buddy. It's nice you're here. So how'd you discover skateboarding?
When I was a kid, I watched Back to the Future.
Yep.
Back then, skateboarding wasn't in the mainstream media like it is now. And it got me the motivation to try it out.
The hoverboard did it for you.
Yeah, I didn't need a team. I could ride on the walls. I could fly in the air. And it was super fun, so I got hooked and I made a living out of it, and I continue to introduce it to more people every single day from my shop at posthouston.com. downtown.
Nice.
So I rode a skateboard once.
Oh, I grew up
My
on
brother
one.
had one. I stepped on it. I didn't expect it gave side-to-side sway. I thought it would be firm. I freaked out. I was like, nope. And I've never been on a skateboard
Mine was a
since.
Shark. Do you remember the Shark skateboard?
Yeah, that was a Nash skateboard. Nash was actually a Texas-based skateboard brand out of Dallas.
Really?
And they had metal wheels.
Yes. I think this scar right here is from that skateboard. But I was 11, 12 years old. So
Yeah, proper instruction is very critical.
Absolutely.
And I can offer that every single day at my shop with the purchase of a new board.
Do you
What
wear
about
helmets?
if you don't purchase one?
I sell helmets.
Yeah.
So, Dan, a lot of people remember the early 90s and early 2000s. Skateboarding was really a very big thing. The X Games became huge. And I mean, what's the current landscape of skateboarding culture? And where does Houston fall within that landscape?
Well, skateboarding's in the Olympics now, so it's very mainstream and more accepted than it used to be. And so with having a shop like Houston Skateboards in a mainstream spot like Post Houston, it is pleasantly, it's pleasant to have people accept it a lot more nowadays. We have Jamale Skate Park downtown. I'm one of the people who helped raise the funds for that. We have North Houston Skate Park, one of the biggest skate parks in the nation. And skate culture has permeated mainstream culture. A lot of comedians, actors, musicians are skateboarders. So it's more than just like an activity that you do. It's a lifestyle, and that is definitely showing its influence worldwide.
So I grew up in Birmingham, and we had people may not know this, but Birmingham's right in the foothills of the Smoky Mountain chain. My point is, we had hills, and big hills, little hills. So skateboarding around the neighborhood was kind of easy to do because you had hills. You might have to walk up one, but you could certainly skateboard down it. What do kids do here other than just push their skateboard?
Well,
you gotta
downtown
find a
is
park,
a worldwide
right?
skateboard destination. Skateboarding has evolved beyond just hills to where we figured out all types of ways to skate, riding on the walls, building our own ramps in our own backyards. And then with the public skate parks, there's more than enough ways to skateboard.
Okay, so Dan, you are a pro skateboarder. How do you become a pro skateboarder? What does that look like? I mean, clearly you have to be able to do some very cool tricks.
So the way that I did it is I did well in contests. I had some coverage, and my sponsors turned me pro. They offered me a contract, and then I went on to skate in the pro circuit, and I was ranked top 20 in the world on the Vans Triple Crown Pro circuit. And then also I'm very known for inventing tricks and combos and finding new ways to skate. And you can see my best of video in the About Us section on HoustonSkateboards.com to see some of that.
So in addition to what you're able to do on them, the technology and the changing in the boards themselves over the number of years you've been involved, what has been some major changes that have improved the ability to skateboard, and how much of it is still just the old school skateboard?
Well, just like the Louisville Slugger bat, skateboarders prefer hard rock maple wood. If you do like carbon fiber and all these other things, skaters still prefer the hard rock maple no matter what. The bearings, the urethane of the wheels has been refined to such a high level that it's very consistent. Boards don't break as much as they used to, and the wheels roll faster, and it's amazing.
Have you been able to put your 2 cents into these kind of designs? It sounds like you really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I actually developed a ramp with American Ramp Company, the largest skate park builder in the world, and it has my signature on it. It's there's one in Sugar Land you can go check out. Also, Shark Wheel, they reinvented the wheel. You may have seen them on Shark Tank. I helped them design a 54 millimeter wheel that's now on the market. And, a lot of what I do with Houston Skateboards is I develop art that resonates with Houstonians and Texans, and we try to be as original as possible.
Awesome. We're talking to Dan MacFarlane. If you have any questions for Dan, he knows everything there is to know about skateboards. Give us a ring, 713-440-8870.
Okay, speaking about everything to know about skateboards. So, Dan, where can kids that are young go to learn? Because my 4-year-old son, Philip, is absolutely obsessed. He has a scooter and he gets on the side of it and he starts scooting like he's on a skateboard. And Dan and I are looking at each other like there's no way we're going to teach him. So where, if parents are like, my kid is showing interest in wanting to get into skateboarding, where do kids go to learn? Nothing major, like not big fallen.
Says the mom.
So
I don't want any broken bones,
Yeah. So kids are skating from birth nowadays because of the Olympics. People want their kids to be a champion, but 4 years old is a great start for a kid. And when you come to my shop, I have kid-sized skateboards. We can custom build you one. I have non-abrasive grip tape, and then I can take them through a little quick start lesson and get them familiar with the board. And then they can take that, go over to Jamail Skate Park 1 mile away, and build up those skills. There's instructors over there as well.
Okay.
And a skateboard's a skateboard. There's not like a beginner skateboard with training wheels. You gotta learn it from the beginning.
That's what I needed.
I know. They call that a wheelchair, Ernie.
And Frank's in a scooter now too, but a whole different one.
So I guess it's just the size of the board when you're a kid, right? I mean,
the size of the board, and like I said, there's new technology, which is the rubberized grip tape that doesn't scratch up a little kid that wants to ride on their stomach or their back. This stuff will tear you up.
Right.
And the sizing is also critical because the maneuverability of the board depends on the length and all of that.
And I'm guessing, elbow pads?
Yeah,
and
talk safety a
knee
little
pads.
bit.
Yeah, so I offer helmets and pads of all sizes at my shop. And I always tell people one of the secrets to progressing quickly at skateboarding is to put on your pads, your helmet, then you'll have less fear and you'll have less injuries.
That's the key right there, isn't it?
It's always crazy when I look at skateboard parks and I see all that concrete and all these people flying around. I just think there'd be so many more injuries, but it's not as dangerous as I think, is it?
Yeah, everything is calculated. Skateboarding is not a contact sport like baseball and football, basketball even. So it's rare that you collide with other people. That's where the main injury would happen. But when you go bigger and try to see what you're made of, you're bound to have an injury.
But, we often see at different shopping centers, you'll see no skating, no skateboarding and things like that. Why is it so important for communities to offer places for young people to go to skate?
Because skateboarding teaches you how to set goals, builds courage. It's a healthy lifestyle when you have consistent physical activity that you can do outside. And when shops understandably put up signs, no skateboarding, to protect their property, that limits the amount that young people and even older people can practice on their skateboard. That's why the parks are so critical, so that you can skate every day.
Hey, Dan, JC Squared from YouTube says, Dan is so cool, holy moly. What is his favorite Houston skateboard design?
I would say my favorite Houston skateboard design would be this tile sign curb right here. These are the first street signs in Houston. I'm the first to put that onto a skateboard. This is a photorealistic illustration.
I love it.
And he's showing the bottom of the skateboard for those of you on the radio that can't
that is
see
awesome.
Go to YouTube. Take a look at it. You'll see his cool skateboard.
Hey, I want to interrupt that train of thought just a second. I don't know if you know that Dan was instrumental in stopping an arsonist in our city and putting out fires. I read all about you in the Houston Chronicle.
Crazy situation.
Give us the 45-second version of that.
So I was on West 34th in Ella. I just got done eating, and I was filming my story for Instagram. I discovered a demonic bum on the side growling at me, and he was lighting a little fire. I went to the parking lot, noticed ashes and smoke. I discovered a bigger fire. I had everyone evacuate BB's, Tex Orleans, and the fire truck came. They put it out, and he had lit 2 more fires, a Metro bus stop on fire, and I found him on the side of the road with his arms in the air, worshiping the destruction he caused. And he was headed towards the Oak Forest neighborhood, and thank God that I
I mean,
discovered him.
you've been wanted as
discovered him.
You've been wanted as a big hero on this, and I understand why.
Hey, I was just doing what I do. Part of being a street skater is situational awareness, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was filming this new ramp, and I'm used to dealing with homeless people and unsavory characters out there in the streets of Houston, Texas, and he kind of made me mad, so I went and tracked him down, and I'm glad I found him, because it could have been a lot worse.
Well, one more time, your website and how can we follow you on Instagram and on Facebook?
Follow me, Houston Skateboards, on Instagram and Facebook. We do pop-up shops. I will be at St. Arnold Brewery in a couple weeks.
Oh, we love that place.
Yeah. So I go to No Label, and that's an offering for you guys to come hang out with me, have fun, check out all the products. And then also HoustonSkateboards.com. keeps you up to date.
All right. Dan, holy moly, you're cool.
Dan MacFarlane, pro skateboarder and owner of Houston Skateboards. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Yeah, I love that board.
Thank
you. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our show. We want to thank you.
Can we come back tomorrow?
We can come back tomorrow.
You can be sad right now, but we're excited because it's getting us even closer to the big game.
The Cougs.
That's right.
Whose house?
And
Cougs house.
Whose house?
All right, you guys done?
Whose house?
Frank isn't.
All right, we want to thank you for joining us on Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from the Woodlands Waterway Arts Festival. Over 200 artists, authors, live music, food, and children's activities at the Woodlands Water